You got it.
And we're calling this the Physical Media Summit or something.
Yep.
Let's get physical.
Let's get physical. I like that.
PMS. Okay, yeah, I'm digging it.
PMS on PTC.
PMS.
Here's my eye patch.
Smoke, you're such a beautiful man.
I tried.
I you, and I just see such a beautiful chunk of meat every time I see it.
That's right.
Purely waist up, just to be very clear.
I didn't know this was going to be this kind of podcast.
Okay.
It's
I
a
just
sexy
assume
podcast.
everyone is going to be.
I'm menstruating right now, so we just went over this.
I didn't do enough prep work for this kind of talk.
The good news is we'll have you on for more than 2 seconds, though, Brad. So
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
the flip side.
You know, not for nothing, they can hear you. People can hear you off here on the line. Because I can see you on the line.
See Brian's beautiful bald head up in here. There we go. Oh yeah.
I thought you were going to say his beautiful balls.
No, only above the waist.
I'm glad you kept going.
Yeah,
Getting
until
above
you
the
ended
waist.
that day. I didn't know what was happening.
Party going on down here. Woo.
Oh, up here, I told you.
I'm talking
My eyes are up here.
Why do you have a camera down there?
Exactly.
I switched.
Yeah, if you want to say George Carlin 7 words you can't say on TV now.
Bro, I was watching that last
I love
night.
that. I
Oh,
love
were
that
you?
routine.
Last night at work. It was my background music when I was working.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's spectacular. This is where my computer crashes.
Is this the end of PlayStation? Is this the end of gaming as we know it? We will talk about it coming up next on Pass Controller.
Attention. You are now
Dramatic
tuned
as hell,
in
man.
to Pass the Controller.
Dramatic moment in
Round
video games.
table, show me your
Yeah,
moves.
wow.
How these moves get good and get in the groove.
Gears of war like Sonic hopping the tuck.
You don't want the smoke, you'll
That's
get
it.
body
No,
on
right
the
now.
nuts.
Clock,
Come
man.
for the characters,
Clock,
stay
yeah,
for the
you're right.
content.
They're from the elite to the stepping
proud
body.
of you.
Conventions and stream the
Yeah, I need to teach my people about tons of
Piece and hair grease.
Yes,
Let's go,
social
baby.
media.
Piece and hair grease.
Pass that. Pass that.
That was our
Pass
intern.
that. Pass the controller.
Yeah, we're creating
Pass
that.
that. Pass that.
Really?
That's
what I do.
Pass the
Yeah.
controller.
That's what I do.
Pass that. Pass that. Pass that. Pass the controller. Pass that. Pass that. Pass that. Pass the controller.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm way too far out.
At least you can see you.
What's up, everybody? You know we having a party in here today. Listen, this is another episode of Pass Controller. Happy August, everybody. Listen, we are going in balls deep as a word, man. We got a whole bunch of people here, man. This is insane, yo, for real. We have a very, very important topic to talk about, man, which obviously, man, it's going to be really touching for all of us, man. But before that, man, you already know who I am. I'm McNuts, man, the Salty's Gamer Alive, man. I got my host, man. You see this guy over here, man. This is not matter of fact. No, I'm sorry. I'm away. There you go. The guy away, man. Smoke, what up, Smoke? How you been, man?
What's going on, man? The ships are being built right now at the docks. They got a year or so before the ships set sail. We got a revolution getting ready to be starting, and people are right now signing petitions. The world's going crazy. Cats loving dogs, dogs loving cats. The world's in hysteria. I'm here tonight to talk about all this. The Armageddon is about to hit us. And I'm going to pass the controller over to the one and only legend himself, Civic Minded.
I don't know how to follow any of that. All right, yeah. What's going on, everybody? Yeah, we're super happy tonight to have a very special episode of Pass the Controller. We have 3 amazing guests with us tonight. Of course, the topic that we really want to talk about tonight, I know we usually have our shows very lighthearted. We talk about games we're playing. We talk about video game news. We talk about all kinds of stuff. We have little games we play with each other, but tonight it's very serious stuff. Big topic. About a month ago now, as of July 1st of this year, Sony announced officially they're not going to support physical media anymore for their gaming consoles as of January of 2028. So we want to discuss that. Before we get into it, obviously want to introduce everybody here. We have an awesome guest. This panel is insane tonight. We handpicked this group from video game aficionados who are in the know, who have the knowledge and the history and flesh in the game, as it were, to really speak candidly about this topic. So I want to kick it off. Let's go first to Tristan Ibarra. How's it going,
Hello.
man?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here and talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm chomping at the bit.
Yeah. Give us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? What's your video game background, as it were?
Sure. Gamer since the mid 80s, collector since the mid 90s. I joined the Air Force in 2000 and retired, from the Air Force in 2020.
Thank you for your
But
service.
during that entire time, I was still collecting and going around the world and all that good stuff. But whenever YouTube started putting out all this stuff about like obscure consoles, I remember watching like GameStar 81 stuff. It really got my curiosity going as a obscure game collector. So I wanted to know what was out there, did just brute force research, and ended up making my own giant collector books. It's funny because like whenever I was doing research, Brett Weiss's name always came up as far as like book authors. So I ended up in North Texas with Brett for the last 7 years of my Air Force career. So
Nice.
I've met him several times at conventions and everything else. Besides the books, I'm the senior layout designer for Old School Gamer magazine, which
Nice.
Brian is definitely familiar with, and so is Brett. They both write for it. I work for a physical limited print company as well, so we're kind of being affected by this too. Have a little background insight with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. That's a perfect transition. With no further ado, let's hand it off to Brett, the one and only Brett Weiss. Welcome back to the show. You've been with us once before, and we appreciate you coming back, of course. But for those who don't know, give us a little bit of background of yourself, please.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I'm glad to be on. Thanks for having me. I'm going to
course.
demonetize this video by singing The End of the World as We Know It by REM.
There you go.
Regarding physical media.
Appropriate.
Nah, I won't do that. My name is Brett Weiss, and I have been a gamer since way back in 1975 with Midway's Gun Fact and Pong when I was 8 years old. Prior to that, I actually played some electromechanical machines and pinball, and then a collector since the late 70s with the Mattel handhelds, and then I got a system
Nice.
an actual game system of my own in Christmas of '82 with ColecoVision. And just been at it ever since. I started writing about video games professionally in 1997 with the late lamented All Game Guide, and I write books about video games. And guys, I debuted this at Classic Game Fest. The cover to my next book, my very first book in 3 years. This is still just the
Oh, nice.
cover. I don't have it printed out yet, but it's Retro Pop Culture Volume 2,
Nice.
60 deep dive chapters on video games, movies, comics,
Nice.
all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that'll be up for pre-order very soon. And guys, if you don't like books, if you don't want to buy anything, man, just give me a sub on YouTube. Just Brett Weiss. That's all I ask.
So, like, just to be clear, these guys are kind of, they're a little humble. So I want to go take a little bit of a deeper dive between Tristan and Brett. I would go so far as to say, of course, Leonard Herman's not on the panel with us, but I would say these are 3 of the biggest writers in history of gaming, most comprehensive material I've ever seen. I mean, to Tristan's right, you see that category of that collection of books there. And if you want to point to there you go. Do the little, the game show. Yeah, there we go.
Here,
So
I'll
I mean,
pick them up just so you can get the scale.
the thing weighs
Oh,
about 50
gosh,
pounds.
It's a lot of yes.
It literally broke my bookshelf when I bought it, but it's a comprehensive guide to basically every game ever made. And then of course Brett, these are volumes upon volumes of just breakdowns on every game you can imagine. It's insane. Yeah, go to his site. You guys, before we continue, before we go to Frank, give us your websites real quick. Tristan, where can we find you?
VG Collector Guide, and the Video Game Collector's Field Guide is what I've worked on, and Video Game Console Collector's Field Guide. I've also got one more book coming out, which is Tristan Ibarra's Video Game Dictionary for the Total Noob. That's coming out later this year.
Nice. Awesome. How about you, Brett?
BrettWeissWords.com. And my first book came out in 2007, right as the sort of that big retro gaming collecting craze and just the reintroduction of retro games to a lot of people with the Wii Shop channel and YouTube getting popular and all that stuff. My first classic home video games book was right around that time.
Nice. That's awesome. Awesome. And last but not least, definitely not least, we want to flip it over to our guy here, Frank. Frank, tell us a little bit about you. What have you been up to? What's your situation?
Well, I don't know how to read or write, so I have nothing in common with the other two that you just mentioned. But yeah, I've been gaming since the 70s, since my dad got me an Atari and Nintendo. And, I parlayed that into owning a couple of retro game stores up here in 2026. We've been running for about 15 years. And to say that this would have some kind of an effect would be a massive understatement, going on. It's been a roller coaster of emotions the last month. And some of it's actually going to help what we're doing, if we're being completely honest, because there's gonna be a lot of panic and a lot of people looking back. So not really sure what the future holds, but it's gonna be damn interesting.
Yeah. And again, what's the name of your store for those?
Classic Game Junkie. We have 2 stores, one in Glenside, PA, and one in Lansdale, PA. Lansdale one has an arcade as well, so we're getting into the stand-up cabinets.
Very nice. Well. Awesome. And you are at classicgamejunkie.com? Is that
classicgamejunkie.com?
There
That's
you
where
go.
You can find the stores, and we're hopefully adding a 3rd store soon.
Nice. Awesome. So I want to, we kicked off at the top of the hour here talking about a little bit about what this show is going to be about. Of course, PlayStation made their big announcement about, basically ditching, physical media as a source of gaming media in the future. And first thing came to mind is I wanted to tell a little anecdote, if I might, because how many of you, just by a show of hands, do you remember the first digital game you ever bought? The first non-physical game you ever bought? Do you remember?
Think so. I if I had to, gun to my head, I think it was like Geometry Wars on Xbox.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I remember the game, and I remember the day I bought it. So the first digital game I ever purchased, the first one I ever bought from an online store, was Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And that was on August 18th of 2010. And that was for the PS3. And I remember asking myself, even in that moment, I felt so weird about buying something that I just wasn't sure I really owned. I was like, do I really own this game? What if my PlayStation account goes down, it goes away, it gets compromised, it gets hacked? What happens if Sony just ends support for the game or the console? And, what happens if the PS3, officially gets decommissioned? Does that, affect this? What if Sony just one day says, I just don't own the game anymore? And I remember that day, that purchase, and it skeeved me out a lot. Because, prior to that, it was in television and Sega Master System and N64 and all the other PlayStations. But that particular thing for me was very weird. And it felt like, there was this ominous thing, and granted, that was like 16 years ago. And now things have come to the point where we're asking ourselves, what is the future now of the gaming industry, now that basically all 3 of the big companies are most likely going to, at least in some semblance or another, abandon physical media? I'm just going to open it up. What's everybody's thoughts? Are we underreacting? Are we overreacting? Can we say definitively what this is going to mean for a lot of us?
Well, briefly, before that, I want to get in which ones I remember downloading first. I remember 2, Earthbound for SNES, obviously, and then Mighty Bomb Jack for NES, because I just needed to play these games for research. And so it was really convenient just to download those real quick, play them, and yeah. So sometimes, throughout this conversation, there's some positives to digital, to downloads and stuff, but obviously, this going away is, with Sony's announcement, it's bad news. It's terrible news for the most part, but just digital in general, there's obviously some positive. So for me, it's convenient at times, and those are the two I remember. Anyway,
Brett, did you download those on the Wii Virtual Store? Or
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So that makes total sense.
the
Yeah.
Wii U, yeah,
I mean, I just want to say, I think first off, I don't think anybody here is against digital. I think
Right.
most of us are against all digital.
yes,
Because let's call it what it is. I mean, there are different digital as an overarching term has different connotations too. I mean, you have DRM free, with GOG.com and things like that, where you can download something digitally and still own the game. And we're all about we're pro-choice when it comes to gaming. Everybody should have a choice of console, choice of medium, things like this. So I think one of the things we need to define is like you said, Brett, I think there's some positives to it. Like certainly material costs and things like that. I get it. The instant gratification of getting a game when it launches, being able to re-download something if you don't have your game. We know the advantages of it, but I think certainly more advantages are afforded to the makers of the games and the publishers of the games and the big three companies, as opposed to the trickle down of effect of benefit to the consumer. I mean, we
Right.
can debate that to death, but what's everybody else's take on this? Frank, you were saying about, the future is uncertain from like a retailer perspective. What does that mean for you?
For us personally, I actually think you're going to see a lot of people who do, enjoy their physical collections are going to go on a collecting spree. They're going to see that this stuff's being taken away from you. So I want to get as much as I can. So I have that, feeling and that memory. So that's going to probably drive an initial boost. If I was going to say, I think that's what everybody's kind of expecting is when they cut it, everybody's going to panic buy. So you're going to see that market probably rise. Problem is, in like 20 years, you're probably going to have a ton of games that maybe don't even exist in any shape or form anymore. Like you're going to remember some digital game that came out, the rights are going to get lost, something's going to be misplaced, they're not going to want to negotiate a song in a game, something like that, and they're not going to be able to list it at all. So it's going to be gone, vamoose, non-existent. Like we live in a world where they put out like a Fortnite map, and once they remove that, it's gone forever. You don't even get to relive that memory again. These kids would be like, you remember 30 years ago? And you'd be like, yeah, but that's done. That's toast. You got nothing to pick up to play. It's over. So
yeah. That's I spoke to a video game store owner at Classic Game Fest in Austin this past weekend, and he said as soon as that announcement was made, his store, man, people are just coming in like crazy, buying everything from OG Xbox up to PS5, and his sales have just gone wild.
So I think oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I think this is definitely a generational thing as far as like
Mhm.
how much reaction and how much passion there is, because, we grew up our entire lives with this. And to hear that it's coming to an end, obviously this has a direct impact on us as collectors. But, I just talked to my niece about like buying a Blu-ray for like One Piece. She's a huge like One Piece anime fan. And it never even crossed her mind to watch it on Blu-ray. She's just so ingrained in that streaming culture and in all digital. So I think that until it affect, because like Sony, they say that their bottom line isn't being affected by this, and until those folks feel the effect of not being able to own this stuff and the things being taken away from them, I don't think there's going to be that outrage with the younger generation. And that comes down to our digital rights and how that's going to change. That will change because there's going to be enough outrage, with that's the only choice that we have, and we have no right to it.
Tristan, you're 100% right. And I think that sort of parlays into another point where when you consider the digitization movement across all other media, you have to consider that when, for example, a digital book comes out on Kindle, you can still buy a physical paper book. Okay. You can download songs on, Apple and all this stuff, but you can also still buy a record. You can buy a CD. There's still, an adjacent physical media form to all these other ones. So it's not like digital is outright replacing it. It may be doing it a little bit over time, But for all practical purposes, if I want to buy, say, a piece of vinyl or something like that, I know I can still do it. It's not displacing it completely. Same thing as you just said, with regard to like, movies, Blu-rays, DVDs, they're still being printed. So why is the gaming industry insistent on being different? Why is it going to go through this sort of, forced, well, unforced, I guess, evolution into this full digital paradigm? It makes no sense to me. Why is it different?
To say something, Sony's still making record players. Huh?
Yeah.
Still making things to play fun. They're still making Blu-ray players. All right.
Right,
They have an
exactly.
agenda. Okay. Because if that market's big enough for them to keep making games, why isn't the gamer market who's playing physical, which is still significant? I mean, we're talking
Right.
about millions, not like a couple thousand people. So, it's an agenda. They
Well,
want the pie.
it's crazy that they own from what I understand, they co-own the copyright, I guess, for making Blu-rays, and then they're going to discontinue making physical games. That just
Mhm.
seems kind of crazy.
Well, I think that there have been different moments in time that have sort of shown to me like the writing was on the wall. The last Sony State of Play, they flipped up on, they do their PowerPoint presentation about the future of gaming and gaming stats. And first they show us all these great games that are on the horizon. And then there was a moment that I took pause. I was like, what the hell is this? If you remember the moment, they had like of course, their textbook blue screen behind them and with a white font basically saying, hey, did you know that 83% of games sold right now for the PlayStation platform are digital in nature? And do you know that only 17% are? And they flashed it up and then kind of just scooted right by. And I sat there and I'm like, oh, shit. Okay. I know what this means.
It was like that one frame in
Yeah.
Fight Club that like subliminally just like
Yeah.
blipped up there, and then you're like, wait, did I just see that?
Yeah, and then they're like back to the games, and
Mhm.
they just bookended this little moment, and I sat there and I'm like, okay, they came out with the PS5 Pro and it didn't come with a disk drive. That was another one, and I said they're trying to wean us off of this. This is what's going on. But the problem is that I don't like the way Sony has gone about this, and first and foremost because that 83-17 split is fake. It's a fake stat. Um, First of all, because not all of the over 7,000 available games for the PS4 and PS5 platform have ever been made available in a physical format. It's something like, what is it, like 8% of
Yeah,
total
yeah,
games
yeah,
of their entire
Mhm.
catalog have even ever been made as a physical disc. So when people say, oh, nobody wants discs, I'm like, no, because they're not being made available. If all 7,000 games were made digitally and physically, the stat would probably hover somewhere in the middle, but maybe alias a little bit more towards digital. Who knows? But I'm just saying that you can't grade what is not being made available. You have to compare apples to
Yeah,
apples. If I
those
go
things
into a
that.
if I go into a sneaker store, I go into Foot Locker, they sell a lot of shoes, right? That's their thing. And if I go in there and I look at their books and I say, okay, let's see how many shoes they sell as a pair as opposed to I don't know, t-shirts, right? Maybe they sell a couple well, they sell 80% shoes, 20% t-shirts. They're like, oh, I guess
Mhm.
nobody wants t-shirts.
Yeah.
What kind of
Well,
stupid ass stat is that? I mean, like you know what I mean? Like,
So like and part of the problem there is the barrier of entry for
yeah,
those other games that can't get to physical. So Sony in North America, the minimum print run is 2,000 copies. So you do the math to all the
yeah.
packaging and everything that goes into production, and you've got that. But Nintendo is 5,000, where it's 3,000 in like Europe.
But that doesn't
So
time out for a sec. Does
go
that
ahead.
also apply to strictly limited and limited run games and
Yes,
those two? They
everything.
really
Yep.
does? Oh,
Yes,
I
yeah.
wasn't aware
If
of
you
that.
want to
Okay.
make a physical game on the Nintendo Switch, you have to. The print run is minimum 5,000 copies.
I did not know that. Okay. I
Mhm.
learned something
So
today.
that's a
Interesting.
huge
Yeah.
barrier, and that's kind of where the key cards came in because it's cheaper. The bigger the game is, the more expensive the card is to purchase for that publisher, the higher the game cost. So like some of these games just can't afford to be on not a key card. You know what I mean? Not digital. So
I think that
that's
was
one thing to consider.
It was Nintendo's way, I think, of making sure that there was a physical product, because the companies would have just decided, like the developers probably would have just decided not to put anything out at all. So because the price of those cards is actually kind of high to make for the physical cartridges for
Yes.
Nintendo.
Yeah, and you buy it from Nintendo just like you would buy the cartridges on the NES from
Right.
Nintendo.
Because the price of
They
like
control
memory
that.
in general is absolutely insane right now. So it's their cartridge decision, unfortunately, is not helping them. But the only way they would have jammed them in a portable console anyway. So I guess we're kind of glad we have something.
So I think at least to some degree, most of us here are old enough to at least remember in some form or another the market crash, North American market crash of '83. I think there are some parallels here, but am I being overly cautious? Am I being too paranoid in drawing conclusions? Because my perception of what happened in '83 was essentially that the big companies no longer really cared about product quality. They didn't really care about consumer optics. They didn't really focus on the fun or more fun aspects of the industry, and ultimately it sort of imploded onto itself. And I would think, Brett, do you have an opinion on
Yeah,
this?
Brett's the perfect person to
Yeah.
talk about this.
Well, the problem was Atari, Nintendo was such a gatekeeper with people making games for their consoles. Atari was not. The floodgates just opened. Way too many companies just cranked out crap for the 2600, and they were cheap and they were quickly discounted. And so parents would walk into these toy stores and department stores, and they would see this these cheap games. And then meanwhile, you've got an Atari game or an Activision game that's $40. Parents walk in seeing these terribly hastily put together games from these random companies, marked down to $20, $15, and $10. So they would buy 3 of those instead of one $30 or $40 quality game. So that was a big that was a huge factor. That's probably the biggest factor leading to the crash. But there's so many. Part of that, it's a generational thing too. A lot of people grew out of playing their Atari and televisions and didn't move on to the ColecoVision and 5200 and Vectrex or whatever, or the So there's a million factors with that, and I'm not even sure how to draw the parallels to the current impending crash, as everybody's calling it. So I'm not 100% sure of the exact parallels, because it was just such a different market.
Yeah, and another thing that kind of like really added to that '83 like pre-crash is it was the first time that any company was ever like navigating a console, like a new console
Right.
generation. So they didn't really know how to do backwards compatibility and all that other stuff. So like that really contributed to
Mhm.
like consumer dissent. Like, wait, I bought this game, but it can't be played on my new system. Like, what's going
Yeah,
on here?
if the Atari 5200 would have come out a year earlier and been a much better upgrade to the 2600, if Coleco would not have switched to the Atom, if they would have come out with the Super Game Module instead of the Atom computer,
hmm
if the Intellivision 2 actually would have been an Intellivision 2 where you're getting, more powerful game, it just played the same games, and you couldn't even play the Coleco titles on it. So that was a disappointing. So there was the 2600 Intellivision / Odyssey 2. The next step being the Intellivision 2, the Coleco Atom, the Atari 5200. That just wasn't a powerful, strong enough step, and so that was a big thing too. Just there wasn't an early enough upgrade to because the 2600, when it came out in 77, sorry, that was just intended for simple games, just real simple games. They never imagined they would be porting things like Space Invaders and Dig Dug and Centipede and all that. And so by the time, if the 2600 would have been replaced in like 80, maybe early to mid 81, with a much better upgrade than the 5200, which came out in 82, maybe, it'd be a little different. So yeah, there was a lot of factors there.
I think you're going to have less of what would be considered a crash and more of a migration at this point. One of the appeals to having a console was to be able to collect your games, and that was where the last bastion of some of us old heads who want to collect can still do it. And get that thing that we could smell and feel and touch and open. You smell the game. Don't even tell me you haven't. That cellophane.
I've
feel.
definitely tasted the Switch games.
Okay, I haven't. It tastes like shit. Okay, I'm just gonna be completely honest with you. But you're going to see a lot of people. They're going to say, "Well, if I can't collect it, why not go to a more open digital marketplace?" Unfortunately, like the PC, and less Nintendo because they have their own thing. You know, they've always considered themselves a toy company, so I think they're always going to have some sort of presence. Like they value their retail presence, which is something to consider here. Sony values it to a point because I don't know if you've been reading, but they seem to be panicking a little bit with the retailers, you know, and they're telling them like, hey, we still want a presence on the shelves. So, and they're trying to say, let's get those codes in a box. But back to the main point that you were making, like less of a crash, more of a migration, because where the advantage is at outside of simplicity now, they're losing by about a 20%. You know, those people are just going to dip over where they have more openness.
And see, I agree with what you're saying when you say about migration, because the first thing went through my head was, and I've talked about this with Smoke. I've talked about this with Mark. I even made a comment. You can go back. I think it was about 6 episodes ago, because I had asked a question to everybody before all this went down. I said, what would be the thing that would happen to gaming in the industry that would make you no longer a modern gamer anymore? Like, what would dissuade you from buying new hardware? And we went around the room and everybody had an opinion. And I remember distinctly what I said, and I swear I'm going to pull the soundbite, but I said, if gaming goes to an all digital or all streaming paradigm, I'm out. I can't. It's a bridge too far for me. I can't do it. And I know, because look, and again, you know, Brett, you even brought this up about people who collect games. And of course, Tristan, same thing. It's like, you know, we grew up during a time where you expected to be able to look at and feel and hold the tangible thing that you know you owned. And short of that, I can't do it. I'm not a renter. I don't lease cars. I don't rent home in my house anymore. I've been down those roads. I like the idea of like ownership, a little bit of equity. I want to be able to look at a thing and be able to say, it's mine. It can't be taken away without force. It can't be taken away arbitrarily. And we know that Sony has done this because earlier this month, they erased, what was it? It wasn't Crunchyroll, but what's the other one? All those movies that people bought.
Yeah, it was like
No,
500 something movies.
Yes, and they finally
from people's hard drives or whatever.
No more Terminator.
Yeah, they sold them to them. They were not being. That's not a streaming service. That wasn't like a subscription service. People bought the digital rights to that media, and Sony said no longer. Now, one thing that does drive me nuts, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up, because you know when you go on social media right now, if you even dare to talk about, you know, the whole digital thing, there are, of course, you know, proponents going all digital, and they always bring up this weird, I don't know, to me, it's just an odd argument, but they always say, well, you never really owned your games. You never really owned them because the digital rights aren't really yours. So, you know, you never actually owned them. Yeah, but therein lies the whole point. That's the crux of the argument. You don't own the digital rights to the game, but you own the media on which it is, you know, it's intact.
Yeah, you own the right to play it,
cartridge. Yes,
no matter what.
Yes, but by reason of my purchasing it and acquiring it or trading for it or however I came about it, if I have it in my possession, the cartridge is mine. I can trade it, I can sell it, I can destroy it if I want to.
Do you remember a while back, it was years ago, that one or two or more companies tried to prevent like the sales of used
yeah, I do.
from their company? Yeah,
and
ultimately there's consumer rights.
Xbox One. I mean, they completely destroyed their brand loyalty in one fell swoop. Back in 2013, Sony sat there and danced on their grave, and here they are doing the same thing, and like, well, guys, you know, this is what you want. So
that they killed the whole generation.
I just don't believe in the concept of giving free money. At the end of the day, if you want to give in free money for free, be my guest. I mean, God bless you if you want to. These younger cats that want to defend digital, and again, like Civ said, I have no problem with digital. I believe in the concept of owning. Ownership is everything. If you can't own it, then why are you giving free money away? And if you want to give free money away, be my guest. I come from, like you guys, I'm from the old school. I don't believe in the concept of giving away free money. And if I'm going to have, I believe in ownership. Ownership is everything. If you can't own it, then why am I going to even give you money for something for free? And also, when you have control over when I can play it, when I can't play it, if they decide to say, we're going to take this away from you, which they already started with certain selective games, they can do that. I found myself recently, instead of testify to this, I bought a PC. In all the years we've done this show, I've always been a strong supporter of PlayStation, Sony consoles, period, because of the physical end of it. You know, I wasn't such a big fan of PC ownership, but after all this debacle and all, I'm like, yeah, I invested in a high-end PC for strictly for gaming, and also because of the fact that, look, emulators too. Again, I have no shame about saying that. You know, to each their own. But for me, it's like, again, it's preservation. I've had everything from PlayStation 1. I own all the systems from the PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 modified, where you had the 3 where you could play all PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 games. Again, I collect, like, again, I have Sega Saturn. I have the original consoles. And it was funny because I recently bought something from Frankie's at his store for my Xbox and all. And in fact, I think I might have bought an Xbox system from you. Like, this was maybe a year ago. So ownership, preservation is everything.
Yeah.
Because once you lose that, pretty much, and like I said, and again, I don't knock the younger generation because they don't know, you know, and I don't knock them for it. That's all they know. But as you said, in time, as Sony pushes for this agenda, which, and mind you, they had this agenda. They didn't tell the public. It's starting to come out now. They knew about this like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
they
and
didn't
listen, I
want to
mean,
tell us.
we knew
Yeah.
it's not even just Sony. Let's be
Right.
absolutely clear. I think Sony blinked first and blinked hardest, but certainly we've seen the trend. Now we know, just from looking at, we brought up earlier, I think it was Tristan that brought up about the Nintendo game key
keys.
cards. That's something that, you know, is leaning towards that. But also, I mean, Xbox, they were the first ones on the market to come out with a full digital option for a console, and everybody's eyebrows go up like, what's going on there? Now we know they're shifting towards, you know, an all digital future by phasing out physical retail departments, releasing diskless consoles, rolling out this next generation of hardware that they're proposing that may be something that's almost sort of like an amalgam of PC technology. You know, they're going to wean us more towards that sort of like, you know, all in one box, like the Steam box kind of thing or whatever it may be. So look, all three are going to do it. Sony right now is low hanging fruit, but it's fine by me because I'm Mr. Sony. I'm the first one to admit that is my primary gaming machine, and it has been since the first PS1 came out. Before that, I was a big Nintendo guy. Before that, I was a big Sega guy. I was a TurboGrafx 16 guy. I've been around long enough. Intellivision was the first console I had. So it's not about brand loyalty, because at any given moment, you realize that brand could either go out the window or it could totally about face. I'm not really as on board with Nintendo as I used to be. They're a fine product, but I've realized that I am no longer their core demographic. Just as now I'm coming to the sobering realization that I am no longer Sony's core demographic. They simply don't care. If you can't give people an option, then, you know, I mean, then I am without option. I will not be continuing down this path. As it stands right now, I am very unlikely to buy a PS6. If they come out and say, hey, it's going to be, you know, remember PS Now, it's all going to be streaming games and digital this and digital that, I'm like, I can't. Because I'll tell you something. For the three of us here that write for Old School Gamer Magazine, Tristan, Brett, and myself, and who publish books, I don't publish books, but these guys have, who, you know, and Frank, who has worked his life basically for game preservation and for you know, carrying these games to next generation gamers and things like this. It's antithetical to the spirit of game preservation to back something that is such an obtuse concept as saying, hey, let's just make all the digital stuff out there, make it's a virtual world. Like, I can't in good faith back that idea when with every episode of Old School Gamer that comes out, we're, you know, expounding upon our love for the game and, you know, sharing these memories and things like this, while the big three companies are essentially stripping that away.
And they have no interest in helping that game preservation that we care about too.
Right.
I mean, even Frank Cifaldi of the Video Game History Foundation came out and said, you know, in light of this, that they've got no choice but to like, you know, emulate and pirate at this point, because the other, you know, those big three have. He's tried to work with them. The Video Game History Foundation has tried to work with them in an official capacity, but just has got complete resistance from them so far.
Well, if you go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say just one little fact that's going to blow a lot of people's minds, like viewers and maybe you guys too. Have you ever tried putting a audio CD, which by the way Sony pioneered, into your PS5? Have you ever tried doing that?
I
I
just
have
assumed it would
not.
play on my PS4 and it didn't.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah, it won't play on your PS5 either.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't play audio CDs, which just what the I mean that's
To
so
my
crazy.
understanding,
you know,
the
here's
last
the
last PlayStation console that could play an audio CD, I think, was PlayStation 3. Correct?
Well, you know what?
Yeah,
Here's
maybe I
something
just
funny.
never
Yeah.
tried with.
Well, here's
before,
something
but-
funny.
I don't know.
Well, here's something that a lot of people don't know. When it comes to these big brand names like Sony, Xenovision, you like with DVD players, especially Blu-ray players, if you were to put certain CDs in, it wouldn't play. Now, if you had these independent non-brand Blu-ray players and all that, you notice they play on there. They play non-region free and all this stuff. The reason being because, like you said, it's a brand name. They're trying to
They
make
don't have
money.
that codec in there
Right,
that blocks out
exactly.
certain media. That's all that is.
I like to
Yeah.
think that someone down the road will have enough business sense to say, okay, and I feel bad for independent developers that are trying to get their games out here and all this stuff, because you notice that with these AAA games, these so-called AAA games, which are taking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years to develop. Look at GTA right now. All of these people out here pre-ordered it, but yet you have not seen gameplay yet. And we're down to a couple more months before the game comes out, but yet you have not seen gameplay other than like cut scenes and all. And yet people got suckered into that. And so, and I believe in the idea, if I'm going to pre-order something, I need to see gameplay. I need to see if it's going to be a physical. But people, and I'm saying to myself, where did the common sense go out the window? So I like to think that down the road, someone is going to be smart enough to say, hey, I'm going to bank on this by creating my own company that can still play physical games. And maybe not Sony AAA titles, but independent developers, whether it's from overseas, whether it's here. Again, anything is possible.
Yeah, there you go.
Neo Geo,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. No. Well, Evercade. I want
Yes,
to go
Evercade,
around the
Evercade.
room. I made a list here, so I'm going to read from this, and I just want everybody to kind of chime in here because there are 5 main factors that are the top concern for most people with regard to an all digital marketplace, as it were. So, I want everybody to think of these and let me know which one you think is the worst of these, like the thing that would be the most dissuasive component, the thing that is like the biggest impact. So you have the potential down the line. You have the disappearance of the secondhand game market. You have the inability to share or borrow games. You have complete price control, basically monetization or monopolization rather by the big 3 companies who are going to have their storefronts. The elimination of consumer protections. So, you won't be able to, if they strike your game one day, you won't be able to, go to the, Better Business Bureau and say, hey, I want my game back. They'll just say, hey, can't do it. And then the 5th thing is games can be pulled from your library basically without warning. Ownership is never really totally ownership. So you got 5 things. Secondhand market, inability to borrow games, complete price control, elimination of consumer protections, and games can be pulled without warning. Mark, why don't you set us off here?
Well,
Nux?
Can I add one?
It's so funny because I'll actually, in harmony with what you were saying, Civ, there is actual poll on IGN right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Don't tell us their result. Let's
No,
do ours
no,
first, and
So,
then
so
you can
yeah, I
tell
go
us.
tell you the results.
Yeah, I don't
but-
want to know. That's
but-
IGN,
but
man. That's
you're right,
on them.
right. So I mean, but like I said, I'm not going to say it, but it's in harmony with it because they talked about if you still buy physical games, what are your reasons for doing so? And they list collectorship.
Yeah.
You want true ownership. Historical games should be preserved. Resale value, trade-in value, to share with family and friends, to buy cheap secondhand. You can gift them, or digital only removes freedom of choice. Now it's a total of over 8,000 people. I'm not gonna tell you the results because I actually want to give you my pretty much take on it. Definitely ownership, man. Like I said, I would hate for them to pull it because, like I said, if I'm a person that's like listen, I take my time. I take my time with whatever masterpiece that comes out, man. You know what I'm saying? If for some reason my game gets pulled out, you know what I mean? Like, I was, let's say whatever substantial crisis, man, that the company has, like, okay, we got to pull this game. Let's renege on that. And I'm like, dog, I'm just enjoying the game myself, man. I feel like that's the most like thorn in my side, to be honest with you, man. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely ownership, if they pluck it out from me, man, you know what I'm saying, I'm enjoying the game myself, you know what I mean? Then yeah, that would be a big FU moment, you know what I mean?
Tristan, worst thing.
So I say right now, as it stands, consumer protections.
Mm.
However,
Mhm.
if it does go to all digital, then those are going to change. There's going to be enough outrage, and maybe our legislators will get their heads out of their asses and actually get with the program and change some things in our favor. I Why I have hope for that, I don't know, but
Mhm.
hopefully that is the case, because a lot more people are going to wake up to the fact that they
Yeah.
don't have ownership of the stuff that they're purchasing, which is just egregious.
And I think
But
one really great point you brought up is that legally there's no recourse for the buyer. The consumer protections that are in place for other, things that you buy that are legally recognized by, state and federal laws do not apply to digital games. They don't.
Mhm.
They 100% favor the publisher. There's nothing. You ever read those things? You ever read, do you agree? Do you disagree? If you disagree, you can't play the game you just bought, so you have to agree. But if you read that writing, there's nothing in there about your rights as a gamer, nothing at all. It's all about them and their legal ability to pull the game or discontinue it, or, So, all right. So, Frankie, what's the worst thing about all this?
Well, first of all, you have a complete and utter reliance on the internet for every single solitary thing you do. There is no recourse.
Yep.
You don't have a connection. You just aren't playing.
Yep.
Yep.
Period. So, forget about it.
We had the last couple days.
Yeah, look
Yeah.
at that. You have no recourse whatsoever to do anything. They have all the control. You have nothing, and you will be happy about it.
Yeah.
Make it very
Brett.
simple.
Brett, what do you think?
Well, I've got my personal one, and then I've also got one I'm not hearing enough about. So personally, it makes me insane as a collector, as a reseller, and as someone who just loves a bargain. I love bargain bins. I love buying cheap games. I love looking at clearance sections in stores. That's super fun to me, and just for that to kind of be diminished and to go away eventually is lame. But the one that I don't hear enough
I love
about
it.
is memory.
Well, we're got to get to that.
Just offloading games
Yeah.
every time you want to play something, or having to buy external hard
Yep.
drives and all that stuff. I mean, I bought an external hard drive for my Wii U, and
Yeah.
that's worked out fine because I've got a lot of physical games for it. But some downloads and the external hard drive is fine. But if
Yeah.
you get a PS6 and you have all these AAA games that are just that's great. Yeah, you're gonna have to offload or buy a bunch of memory or something.
Yeah. We're
Don't
going to
worry.
come back to
Don't
that
worry.
topic. We're
Okay.
going to come back to that one.
We have the solution.
Sm-
It's already there.
Smoke. What do you got? What's the worst thing of those 5 things we kind of talked about? there?
Taking away the consumer's rights.
Yeah.
And I express this. I mean, I was doing a lot of research this last week, and I've been sending videos to you guys and all about the history of what the full agenda is. And I mean, it's a deep rabbit hole, man, and it is something. And it's again, like the last thing I sent you guys, and they were talking about the bubble's going to burst because eventually you got all these. It goes back to the data centers and all this stuff. They're taking when they talk about that one chip, how they basically you can accumulate all these PlayStation 5s on one freaking chip for a one little piece. And I'm saying to myself, Jesus, how much money does someone need to make until you know that you're like, okay, when people are going to wake up and say, yo, we're not going to stand for this.
Yeah.
Again, it's a deep rabbit hole as far as I'm concerned, because again, it's the powers that be are allowing this to happen. And this could have been stopped a long time ago,
Yeah.
but for whatever reason, people have been losing their minds. And I'm saying to myself, what's the end game? You're making this much money. How much more money do you need to make?
So we're gonna tie that into the topic of media storage, because I think you and Brett, you're that's the coup de grace. I actually
Yeah.
think that is transcended to all these other things. I think that even virtual things occupy a space, and memory is finite. Memory is expensive. It's not getting cheaper. That's a fallacy for the amount of data. You go. We'll come back. We'll come back to it. I'm gonna give you mine. I'm gonna tell you my thing that I think is the worst thing, and that is the price monetization, monopolization thing they're going to do. Basically, by setting prices digitally through their singular store, they control everything. There's no competition. It's a monopoly. What I do is I don't just collect video games. I lamb cran video games. Tristan, you said at the top of the hour, you're coming out with a book soon. It's a video game dictionary, right?
Yes, and that's why I kind of like cocked my head. I'm like,
the same thing.
what
So
is that?
So if you went on Kickstarter and you backed Tristan's fabulous video game dictionary book project, you could, for one tier, you could
Oh, that's why.
submit.
Okay, yes.
You could
It's
submit
going
a
in there.
term. And one of my best gaming buddies on PlayStation, he game with this guy all the time. He's Lamont Cranston, right? So like, you guys get the reference. But he was notorious. This guy bought games at pennies on the dollar. He would find the best deals on either used games or even new games. And he would never buy anything at launch. He would wait and wait and wait until the game was like dirt cheap. You know that Braveheart meme about hold,
Yeah.
he would wait forever. Guy had diamond hands, I swear. And for short, we called him Lamont Cranston. And it became sort of a verb. Like, I lamb craned this game for $9.99, and a month ago it was $50. So I use this term to people, and they know what I'm talking about now. I'm like, I lamb craned that game. Oh, that's awesome. Good shit. How'd you pay for it? So for me, yeah, it's like I have a pretty solid collection of games, but also for every AAA game I buy at launch, it's part of a $300 collector's edition. I realize I got to buy a lot of other games that I want for much less money. I can't just dump endless amount of funds into this stuff, So for me, yeah, price control is always a pain in the ass. I hate the idea that any one entity basically eliminates competition by default by simply saying, okay, we're going to take it and we're just going to sell it right out the door from our own, proprietary source, and you have no say about it. There's really no competition. You don't have any recourse, and by the way, you can't return the game if you don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where it's coming to. I mean, I think Brett brought up about storage space, and I think that goes into a different sort of topic about the constraints right now in all these tech industries that's being heavily impacted by the tech demands and material demands and resources that's being led by, and I'm sorry, it's going to sound a little political when I say this, but it is true, these hyperscale data centers that are absorbing en masse chip technologies, storage technologies, precious metals, things like this. It's all being jammed into, these data centers and things like that. It's not just that, but like it's hurt, the airline industry, automotive industry, computer industry. And now, if you're a console maker, I do have a bit of sympathy for a company like Sony with that regard. It's very hard to make a profitable piece of hardware now, knowing that the bill of materials for your next console, before shipping, before marketing or anything like that, it may be $1,000. We've all seen that report that basically says if you were to build from scratch a next-gen console at this point, it probably would cost you about $1,000. You're talking power supply, motherboards, graphics cards, all this stuff. So I get it. Next console, probably going to be expensive. But does that negate the responsibility of these companies to still at least give us the option to have physical media? To me, it doesn't. See, and the thing is too, and even Brett brought this up again. I want everybody to maybe just chime in on this. But like, if you buy Call of Duty, and it's the digital download, I don't know, on PS5, what is a 400 gigs?
At least.
That's a
Yeah,
massive
and everything.
Massive, yeah, but that's what Call of Duty players. That's what they're going to do. They're going to get everything, and that's like half a hard drive, man. That's a stock hard drive on a PS5. It's under a terabyte. What is it? 825 gigs or some weird odd number. It's like one funky number, but that's what you're getting. So again, when you're talking about buying an external hard drive for a Nintendo system, that the writing is on the wall. That is not a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're dead on. The games are getting bigger.
Yeah.
The hard drives are getting more expensive.
Mhm.
Every single purchase, you have to consider where you're going to stick it. So we need 4 hard drives, another $400, another
Right,
$500. The cost of entry just keeps going higher and higher.
I have an 8 gigabyte M.2 Seagate drive in my PS5. It is filled, and I have. You guys are gonna laugh.
What's that run you?
I have three. I'm getting to it. I have three external Samsung. What are they? 960 digital hard drives. They're also 8 terabytes each. I think I said gigs. They are filled with my PS4 and PS5 games, and basically they are filled.
So you're already having storage issues before this even happens.
Pretty much.
Well, when you're also, like I have a Plus subscription and stuff like that, so there are games I download, I know I'll play later, kind of thing. And because I just don't trust that the game is going to be there. Like I know how upset I was when I learned that PT, playable trailer, was nixed by Konami. I was pissed when I learned that they said, oh, not only if you downloaded it before, now you can't download it. You can't switch it from drive to drive. And I was horrified. And that's another one of those writing on the wall moments where I said to myself, my God, they can really do this. They can make it so they can strip a game right off your console if they want to. Basically, they'll strong arm you to get it so you can't access it ever again for whatever reason.
With these file sizes in mind, knowing that GTA 6 is not going to fit on a disc, right?
Right.
Even if they did come out with it, even if Take-Two hadn't preemptively said this is not going to be physical, which by the way we can talk about if you want to, the timing of Sony and that news coming together, that's not a coincidence. Anyway, with those file sizes not fitting on the disc, how do you feel about owning part of the files and then downloading the rest later with a day one patch, which happens almost every single time with the AAA title?
I think we sort of started to figure that out on the PS3. I remember buying, Street Fighter 4, and day one download was huge on that game. And I sat there and I said, well, damn, like how much of the game is on the disc and how much is, it's no longer a patch when 75% of the game is to be downloaded.
Right.
Some of these discs, I'm not oblivious to the fact that some of the discs you buy, it's just a key to a download.
Yes.
It literally has nothing on there. So
and that's been happening for over a decade.
Yeah. We like I don't want anybody to have any misgivings. Like when people are watching this, they're like, don't they know that like a lot of stuff in them? We know. Like I understand it, but I think that still by the very nature of having something physical that represents your ownership, you're still about 80% good that you still own the game and you can still play a semblance of the game as long as you have something downloaded.
And you said about the writing on the wall, seeing how it's like PT was pulled from the store and whatever, even if you purchased it, even though, that's kind of a different issue because it was a demo, it was a free demo. So you didn't purchase anything, right? But still, they took away your ability to transfer it or whatever. It's just it doesn't exist anymore. So what happens, and this has happened over and over again, when the servers go dark and then you can't access the rest of that game. You can't download that day one patch and you're stuck with what's on the disc.
Well, they gave you an example of that a couple of days ago when everything went black on PlayStation, and the same with Xbox. And for 6 or 7 hours, people got a taste of the future of what could happen. Because basically that's what it was, a taste of the future of what happens when PlayStation totally takes control and says, nope, we want to take this away from you. And people were in hysterics. People were going little bananas. And I'm like, oh, welcome to the future. This is what y'all wanted.
So Sony initially made this announcement on the 1st of July of this year on X or Twitter, whatever the hell it's called, I guess. And, it's no coincidence that they did it on that day because that was the first day of their third quarter report. So their second quarter earnings report was already in the bag. So they figured, hey, let's put it in the first possible day of the next quarter earnings report so it'll be less impacted over time. And, so we're not stupid. We see how things go. And they were radio silent about this on all social media. And meantime, everybody's just hashtagging and ratioing everything they're just putting out there. And, don't kill physical media, stop killing physical media, physical forever, all this stuff. And, that's great and all. But then earlier this week, Sony finally, broke radio silence and basically doubled down and said, we don't want to, they didn't say it like this, but here's how it read to me. we don't want to upset our shareholders, so we're going to continue down this path. I'm not going to sugarcoat, and I'm not going to quote what they said, but that essentially was the message that, you know, like, we put in a lot of time and effort thinking about this, so
They
we're just going to move forward as planned. And to me, it just means, and they acknowledged, they said, you know,
Mhm.
there's a lot of strong feelings about this new course of action, and I was like, oh, you people. So they do know, but I I thought I was really holding out hope that Sony would pull kind of like, remember Universal with the Sonic movie, how people were initially like appalled by the original Sonic design,
Yeah.
and you know, people were really outraged. Sonic fans were. I know Knuckles remembers.
Which I
He's,
still think it was a ploy though, man. But yeah, we're going though.
yeah, I know. I kind of feel that way too,
Yeah.
honestly.
but
Ugly
I
Sonic.
it's if it was a ploy, it was the most brilliant marketing move in the history of
Good, yeah.
cinema. And if it wasn't a ploy, it was one of the most sincere
Mm.
tactic, I guess, reactions to consumer upheaval in
Correct,
the gaming
yeah,
industry I've ever
correct.
seen. It was awesome, and I would really just wish Sony would come out and be like, okay, we hear you. Okay, we're gonna pause this thing. We have to go back to the drawing board. We don't know what we're gonna do, but we at least hear you. You know, as a loyal customer, I just kind of felt like, just acknowledge that.
Just sort of a mea culpa.
Say
just
something, like,
something.
Well,
you know, like, if
the problem with these corporations is, like you said, you know, shareholders, you know, profit margins and shareholders. You've got people in buildings insulated from actual gamers, insulated from actual game stores, insulated from the market, insulated from real people. You got these people with these ridiculous, just, you know, making a ton of money, meeting in boardrooms and looking at numbers with no regard for the bigger picture. Just looking at, you know, trying to please their stockholders, looking at the bottom line, looking at profit
Yeah.
margins and everything, without regard for, and that's why, you know, a lot of times you'll just see something in the news or whatever of a corporation making just a stupid self-sabotaging decision, and you
Yeah.
wonder, how in the world could that happen? It's because they're insulated from their actual market and from their actual product and from their
Yeah.
actual consumer base. They're just in a high rise somewhere, looking at numbers, making these decisions.
Yeah.
Thinking about
echo
funding their
chamber.
next thinking about funding their next trip to Cabo.
Right.
Yeah, and
just
I
trying
think,
to figure out
think
how many
also
millions they can pay the CEO, you know, each year.
I mean, I think the biggest trick they've pulled so far is convincing us that this wasn't the game plan for the last two console generations. Because I think that, you know, like, if you've really paid attention, I think that you don't really have the right to be shocked. Like, I think we saw it coming, but we're nonetheless very disappointed. Like, I kind of thought that at least in some semblance of existence, they would at least still provide an option, because the gaming collectors are hardcore, and gamers in general are very loyal. We're fiercely loyal. On our own website, I mean, periodically we'll just, you know, we'll poke fun at Nintendo or something, or we'll say something bad about Sony, not to create discourse, but like, all of these different platforms. If you're a PC gamer, there's advantages and disadvantages. If you're a Nintendo gamer, advantages and disadvantages. And each one of these companies has their strengths and their weaknesses, things they do great and things they constantly screw up. But it's funny how loyal gamers are, because as soon as you put something out there that even jabs Nintendo fans just a little bit, it's a flurry. It's a beehive of activity. Like, no, that's not Nintendo for life and Mario rules. And I'm like, but I love it. I love that you're passionate about. That's what I'm talking about. That same kind of energy, if you put that forth, you could sort of convey as a group that notion that we want to be part of this, this preservation movement. We want something that's at least a semblance of a choice, and sort of parlays into something. So there is a proposed PlayStation blackout that's scheduled for Sunday, August 23rd through Sunday, August 30th, where everybody just turn off all your Sony gaming devices. Don't put them in rest mode. Turn them off. Everything. Don't go on the app. Don't download anything. Don't update anything. Don't play offline. Nothing. Take a week, play some different games, or God forbid, I don't know, go outside. Enjoy a different hobby. Read a book. I can recommend some very great books by Brett and Tristan that you can sit down and read. But I'm saying, I think that it's to send a message, basically. I know it's not going to hurt, Sony's bottom line.
Yeah.
This is only to, people are like, this boycott's not going to do anything. I'm like, no, it's a death rattle from those who love their hobby. It's just so we stand up one last time and be counted before it all goes dark. That's all it is. I don't expect anything from it. I will be participating. I love Sony. I love Sony. I love PlayStation. I really do.
Also
I
good for the
still hold out hope that they reverse course, but I'm cautiously I'm tepid. I don't know. I don't think they will, but
As-
I just want them to see us one last time.
sure.
Remember that? Remember that To Michael commercial? Remember they did To Michael? Remember that? Like it was like minute long commercial where it was all the PlayStation avatars. Like had
Yeah, yeah,
Kratos and everything.
yeah,
They were all in
yeah,
that bar and they're all telling stories
Yes.
and it was beautiful. And it's a commercial that brings me to tears because it was really dedicated to the gamer. I just want this blackout. It's not hostility, it's unification. I just want people to raise up one last time, be like,
The key
let's just be
word-
counted and then go out.
The key word, Civ, that you said is unification. Now,
Yeah.
in this system that we live in, when is that happen, especially in this country, dude? You got to think about it too, man. We hoping that it happens. I hope that it happens. I really hope it does. But the way a lot of these people are getting desensitized now, it's scary, dude. It's
Yeah.
really scary.
We've
Everybody's
been told
getting
we don't
desensitized little by
matter.
little. Right.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
everybody's
And
everybody's
that's-
in their headset,
that's
in
the
their,
thing
in their
that sucks.
headspace
Yeah.
are getting desensitized little by little, man. It's going.
Brett, you had something. I think you were.
Oh, I was just gonna say that peaceful protest is a hallmark of being American. At least for now.
at least for now. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean,
right.
look, like a lot of us probably have decent sized digital libraries. Whenever I've encountered anybody online who, there he is.
Oh no!
Frank, get that
Oh,
out of here.
God.
Man. Frank, get out
Just
of
brought
here.
Sony into the picture. No big
Get
deal.
out of
Whenever whenever I put out like the hashtags on social media about safe physical and all, so inevitably you get a couple people who are like, what do you have against digital? Digital's the future. Digital's the way of the future. So I love digital. All my catalog's digital. I'm like, great.
Desensitized, dude. I told you.
I
Desensitized.
I am glad that you have a choice. I support it. I have a digital library, but because some games just don't have a choice. There's no choice. If you want to play mixtape, you're buying it digitally. I don't think that's right. That
Yeah,
mixtape is
yes,
that
100%.
good example.
Yeah,
Good example or bad?
example,
Yeah,
good example.
never. That is a contender for game of the year, but is not on disc. And I
Correct.
sucked it up and bought it. I'm like, all right, I'll support it. So listen, I support you if you are all about having a digital future and rights to digital games. I really, you couldn't have a bigger advocate. But I think a lot of us in the physical realm, we're just asking for some reciprocity. Just hear us out. Like this is important to us, just as that is important to you. So, I still would love to hear just one of these companies go, hey, we're going to do this differently. We're not going to follow Sony. Or even Sony just come out and say, we're going to rethink this. Maybe this needs more time. Maybe we're not there yet. Which of you said about, like, I think it was, what, Frank, did you say about, like, if you don't have internet, you're not going to be able to game? Or was that Tristan? I forget.
That's
Yeah,
Frank.
yeah.
Frank. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's true. Like there are some people in, there are other countries that don't have the infrastructure we do.
Yep.
There are areas of this country that don't have great infrastructure. And to tell them now you have to download Call of Duty through your, 8K modem or whatnot. Nobody's that slow, but you know what I mean? It's going to suck. It's like, how's that going to work?
I
I don't
think
even
one
think
way it's
digital's the
gonna.
goal.
I think one way that it's going to hurt the industry is is discovery. Without new titles on shelves, just people kind of looking around what to pick up. It's that's way different than scrolling through a bunch of stuff digitally. Because if you look at digital stuff, you're scrolling through a lot of stuff. If you're looking at a shelf, you're looking through a more finite selection of things that might strike. Just impulse purchases. And there are digital impulse purchases for sure, but one more avenue of discovering new games and buying new games, getting rid of that is short-sighted and not good for the industry.
Yeah, and the death of brick and mortar, with GameStop
Yeah.
on its last legs. My gosh, I miss Software Etc. I miss Babbage's. I miss.
What do you mean, man? They're gonna
all of
buy
that, man.
eBay. Didn't you hear?
Funco Land. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right. But man, it's just a far cry from when we grew up and we had what we had. It just
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the culture that's
It's a
changing,
sad
man. All of a
thing.
sudden, dude. As the years goes on, man,
Yeah.
the system gets cooked and cooked, man. Even more, the culture is changing. It's
I think
then-
they're
I'm still
under
gonna yell at that cloud. That's
Hey, look at it like this.
Yeah,
Hey,
you know,
aren't
you
we have the right.
you said it perfectly because this was one of my takeaways. I really had a moment of clarity the one night I was sitting there doom scrolling, of course, and I thought about it. I did turn 50 this year, and I thought about it, and I'm like, maybe I'm just that old guy now, like who I can't.
Get off my
I
lawn.
love technology. I
Mhm.
honestly do. And I would be all about getting the next Grand Theft Auto if it weren't just a code in a box. I would be all about getting a PS6. It's exciting to me. I'm still on the cutting edge. I can still play my games. I still enjoy them. I have tons of people on PlayStation I play with regularly every single night. As soon as I'm done here, I'm jumping on PlayStation with a buddy of mine. But then there's this like weird moment of relief that I had, this epiphany moment where I'm like, maybe I'll be free. Maybe I won't have to be that indentured servant anymore to the gaming industry where I have to buy something every goddamn week. Like maybe I can just sit there and play the games I have. Like I have a game queue right now. I could literally play until the end of time. I would never need to buy another game, really. But I'm a greedy bastard and I love having new toys, and that's kind of it's a I'm really in flux about it. But if I am relegated to being that old guy, if I am the guy who yells at clouds, uh I guess I got to find some semblance of peace in that. But then, what does that leave me? That's, then I really am the old school gamer because that's it. That's the end game, right?
But
Well,
there's a
here's the
lack
other
of
thing that we have to take into
tactile
consideration too.
experiences there.
The gaming industry also, we haven't even touched on this, price increases. Where there was a time when we were paying, like right now, Evercade, we just talked about that. There was a time when we were like, again, we came up in the era where you buy a video game for $30, $40. We would never thought in our lifetime we would be paying a video game for $100.
Well, adjusted for inflation. Hey, Civic, do you remember how
You
much
know?
Yeah,
how
I
much
gotta.
Street Fighter was on Genesis when it first came out,
It was
retail?
around $80, wasn't it?
It was
Somewhere in there.
85.
Yeah.
And,
Do you
and that
remember
was
how much?
in 90 whatever it was. Oh
Got
my
another
word,
one.
dude.
Final Fantasy 2?
No, I was going to go with Final Fantasy 1 for the Master System in '87. That had an MSRP of close to $90.
Wait,
because that was one
say
of the
that
first
again?
8 meg
Yeah,
games.
which game? Sorry.
Which game?
Did I not say Fantasy Star? For
Oh,
the
You said
Fantasy Star.
Final
You said Final
Fantasy.
Fantasy.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. No. Fantasy Star. I'm sorry. Yeah. They're
Frank
two of
said,
my
"What did
favorite
you say?"
franchises, so they're
Yeah.
The one with the
Strider
P,
was
not with the F.
expensive on Genesis. Like Strider, wasn't
Yeah.
that like up there in price? Is what like the
know,
biggest
or
cartridge you made?
you can buy a $50 game, which is in reason, but then they have a paywall. Look at
Yeah. Oh yeah,
GTA.
yeah.
Soon as you log in.
You got the
holding
paywalls,
things back.
and so like again, when you would buy a car, and again, it's not. We understand that the economy and the price increase. Yeah, we understand that, but there was a reasonable amount that you would pay. $60 was the norm for countless of years, for over a decade, more than 2 decades. All of a sudden now it's climbed up, and we're now pushing. Not only are you buying $1,000 game console possibly or more that you don't own, but now they want you to put in and invest $100,
the full price.
not including
Yeah.
the paywall. Mind you, you're paying $100, but not including the paywall. Okay, that comes with it. But here's the catch: you don't own any of it.
Yeah,
You just have a box
big part.
that puts the system. And again, you got to still buy little things in order, and you don't even own it. Hell, at least with a PC, you can own these game emulators. You can own. That's what blows my mind. And again, doesn't matter if we're old school or not. If you got that kind of money where you can just burn it and say, hey, I'm gonna give this company $100, $200, $1,000 for free. You're basically giving these people free money for not owning anything, but just having an invisible idea that you own something, but it's not really.
Yeah.
Be my guest. I got too much common sense in me to say, no, that's not happening, Captain.
So Brett, knowing what you know about the industry and seeing the trajectory of how things have gone, being a student of the game, as it were, where do you see this conversation in 5 years from now? If you had to speculate, what does this conversation sound like
Easy.
half a decade into the future? Where will we be?
Easy.
Wow. Easy for you, tough for me. It's really hard to say. I mean, I guess I guess somebody at some point will invent something where storage is better, where internet access is more prevalent for more people, where, I mean, just with these AI data centers and everything, with everything dependent on so much storage space, so much energy creation, the entire culture is just going to have to shift to more, better ways to have energy and access to all this stuff. And what
Mhm.
that's going to look like, I don't know. Oh,
Yeah.
by the way, guys, I've got to head out in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, we're just wrapping up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's I think we've said it all. Does anybody else have anything go for it. Frank, what do you got for us? What's the solution here?
I'm going to Game
Prices-
Junkie.
The prices are high, all right? The storage is high. The ultimate goal for these companies is not digital games. The ultimate goal is to get you streaming so they can charge you every single month. That is the actual goal.
Yeah.
That is what they all
subscription
dream
model.
of.
Yeah.
Subscriptions. Everything's a service. You take a piss, they want to charge you every time you go to the bathroom, every time you touch the controller. That's where it's headed in 5 years.
And not only the fact that you can finance for a game console now.
Oh, Jesus.
They give you the option to finance. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, again, aren't you glad we all came up in the generation where we had ownership? We owned our games and
We're
everything.
very
else?
lucky.
Conditioning, man. They've been
grateful.
conditioning.
Yep.
So I have one last thought, and I mean it's kind of along the lines of what Civic was saying about how much of it do you sit there and like this is inevitable and my attitude is kind of everything, and I equate it. I'm a baseball fan. Unfortunately, Giants, because they're so bad this year. That's beside the point.
We're in
Yes, they are.
Philadelphia.
Yes, they are.
We're out of the Philadelphia area, so we understand your pain.
Yeah, it's painful sometimes, but we have the Dodgers over here annoying us.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I equate it to like the old school baseball mentality versus the new school. All these new kids that were coming in, flashier, flipping their bats, and people like the old school getting upset. Well, we're the old school getting upset at that, like the new school coming in and accepting all of this stuff
Right.
that is now affecting us. But do we just sit back and accept it and go along with it and whatever? But it's not a perfect analogy, but the main thing is our digital rights have to change. And I think eventually even the new school will realize that they have no digital rights and they will be upset about it too. So everyone's going to be on the same page eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I remember you just conjured a memory. I remember back in the days of Napster and LimeWire and BearShare and everything, and how the music industry was pissed off.
Oh,
Like,
Ulrich especially.
How can you take the hard work of these? And listen, I respect artists. I do. I don't want to pretend like I don't see the flip side. But what I didn't like was the clutching of pearls from record execs who all of a sudden claimed you're stealing from us, when in fact they had been stealing from artists for years and stealing from whatever. Everybody's always stealing from somebody. But eventually, I said to myself, even back then, someday they're going to flip the script, and this digital paradigm will be used to basically turn the tables, where we will be the ones that are going to service their pipeline, and we won't have any recourse. And not just for music, but for, now we see with gaming and, TV, movies, things like this. So yeah, it's kind of coming full circle. It's sad. Frank,
You got the line of the night, Brian. Everybody's always stealing from somebody.
Facts.
we're always passing the controller.
Hard.
Oh, my God.
Passing the
Oh, what
controller.
a plug. What a plug.
That's what paid me the big bucks. Anyway,
And on that
Frankie,
note-
got any final words for us? We're gonna peace out here.
After what you said, just remember, you can still buy a record, you can still buy a CD, you can still buy a tape, but once they do this, you can't still buy a physical game. That's it. That's the end. So hold on to that as long as you can, because it's going.
Keep it
Brett.
physical.
Keep it retro.
And anything further, Brett? Are you good? Closing
good.
words, or all right?
Yeah, just go to
those-
Brett Weiss
those
Words.
few-
If you want to sub to my YouTube channel, it's just Brett Weiss. If you like retro gaming fun or just video game history and arcade tours, video game store tours, all that stuff, just check out Brett Weiss on YouTube.
Awesome, definitely.
those
Tristan,
few-
Hagen's Alley Books. Is that
No,
your-
VGcollectorguide.com.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
But those few like media outlets that are trying to keep it physical, like Old School Gamer Magazine, we
That's
need
right.
your support.
That's
Don't
right.
let us die. Don't let physical die. If
Yeah.
you care about physical media, support it.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Knuckles.
Yeah, man.
Hey
listen,
guys, thanks again for
Frankie.
coming on.
Yeah,
we
we
really
Oh,
appreciate
we didn't
appreciate
get a
it.
chance. We didn't get a chance for Frankie to say anything.
Yeah,
Frankie.
they said a lot of things.
No, as far as
Fine.
like you want to
Oh.
anything.
I mean, yeah, let's go. retro games. Yeah, you're one bastion. You get to look back. You still get to feel it. And we have a whole bunch of them. Classic Game Junkie, okay?
Yes.
111 Southeastern Road in Glenside, 311 West Main Street in Lansdale, both in Pennsylvania. And we got plenty of stuff for you to play. They ain't going nowhere.
They are fun
Cool, man.
stores.
There you go. There you go.
Awesome.
I'm a customer. I know.
And hopefully, chat in the next 10 years, we won't be saying God bless Skynet. You know, hopefully we'll still be we can play
jeez.
it.
I still thank my
Skynet's
Alexa.
away, man.
Okay, I
Skynet's
thank
away.
Alexa every day. She does.
I do
something
too.
for me.
I think.
Thank you, Alexa. Please
not?
don't
Why
murder
not?
me.
Need your games,
Hey, listen,
your
God,
cartridges.
God,
and your discs.
hey, God bless Skynet. Listen, chat, you already know
Yeah.
what to do, man. It's gonna be the end of the show, man. You already know, man. If you enjoyed the show, please go ahead and share it with everybody that you can think of, man, that are gamers as well too, that are affected by this. Everybody's affected, but so share it to everybody, man. And you already know you can reach us in all social medias. Make sure your QR code down there, man. Go ahead and snipe that, man. You can reach us anywhere, especially on Facebook, man. We have a page just for you called PTC Nation where you can share everything. Again, we still gaming, you know what I'm saying? So share games with people, play games with other people. You already know PTC Nation is a page that is just for you, so you can pass the controller together. Again, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate y'all for jumping in, man. Listen, we gotta do this again. Hopefully it'll be on a lighter note, you know what I mean? But listen, that'll be great, man. So chat, we'll see y'all next month, man. So for Frank, for Brett, for Tristan, for Civ, for Smoke, I am McNux. This has been Pass Controller. And as always, get good.
Listen
All
here.
right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Dun,
Thanks for having me.
Enjoyed it.
Y'all.
dun, 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 dun. Yeah, you should have played the Terminator.
Oh my god.
I'm gone now.
Nah, we would be demonetized for that. Can't
Yeah,
play
watch
that.
it in there. They pulled it off the poster.
Play the video
Yeah.
game.
All right. Gotta run.
Guys, thanks, Brett. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good one, guys. Be safe.
Later.
Hey guys, Brett's gonna flip over. Sideways.
That was pretty cool.
Just signing off.
Have a good
Later
one.
on.
All right. Frankie, thank you so much for your time. Kristen, thank you. This was fun, guys.
All right,
Awesome.
Frank.
I'm still here.
Brett is still here.
There we go.